in the Shabbat section, which is three books, this is one of them. In the end of the first book, the Siman 300, he talks about the halacha of the fourth meal of Shabbat, Melave Malka. Now we all know about the first meal is on Friday night, second meal is Saturday morning, Suda Shlishit. The third meal is between Mincha and Arvit. But here he's telling it's halacha, it's an obligation to have a fourth meal when? Motzei Shabbat. Halacha, it's not like a minag. It's halacha, you have to do it. Now anyone that knows about the fourth meal very easily says, yes, it says that anyone that eats the fourth meal is going to be saved, Gog uMagog, is going to have the bone that that's in the back of their neck gets its resources from the fourth meal. It's the only meal that it gets its resources from. Mystical stuff. Question is, why? Why do we not have a fourth meal? Why Hashem couldn't feed our bone in the back of our neck any other way? Why Rabino Melech? So now, in the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, page 30b, it says a story of David HaMelech asking God, when am I going to die? Hashem says, I can't tell you. He says, okay, can you at least tell me the day I'm going to die? Day of the week. It's 1 out of 7. So, Hashem says you're going to die on Shabbat. You're die on Shabbat. He says, oh, Hashem, can't you kill me on Friday? He goes, no, that would make you study Torah one less day. And 1 day of your Torah, Baruch HaBa, 1 day of your Torah is worth to me more than all of the korbanot that your son Shlomo is going to bring to me. You know how many korbanot Shlomo Melech brought just in the inauguration of the Bet HaMikdash? Rav Mizrahi did the math on the inauguration of the Bet HaMikdash. Approximately $150 million worth of korbanot were spent just on the grand opening of the Bet HaMikdash. Hashem says, 1 day of your Torah is worth more than all of those korbanot. So I can't take you from the world on Friday instead of on Saturday, because that means you would study Torah one less day. Okay, take me on Sunday. He goes, no. No king can be a king at a time that another king is supposed to have his kinghood. Meaning you can't be a king for one more day, because that day, the next day on Sunday, your son, Shlomo, is supposed to start his leadership. You can't go into his time. There's your time, there's his time. Okay, בסדר. So David HaMelech knew a secret. He knew that the Satan is the Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara is also Malach HaMavet. This is Gemara Bava Batra, page 16. It says Satan, Yetzer Hara is Satan, is Malach HaMavet. First, the Yetzer Hara is the nice one. He convinces you that doing an Avera, doing some sin, is good for you. Hashem doesn't mind. No, it's okay. Drive to shul, you're making a mitzvah. Drive to shul on Shabbat, you're making a mitzvah. He convinces you, you're making a mitzvah even though it's an Avera. It's nice. Just a smile. Sometimes got long hair, sometimes short hair, sometimes heels. All types of nice ways he comes to you, the Yetzer Hara. And he convinces you that your Avera is a mitzvah. After he convinced you, he's the Satan. What's the Satan? He goes up to Shamayim and says, look what he did. Look what he did. Look, he just drove on Shabbat. Hashem, you said somebody drives on Shabbat, mot yumat. No, Hashem. He goes, tells on you. After that, Hashem Yerachem, if Hashem says, okay, no, that's what I said, that's what I have to fulfill. What does he do? He sends him. He becomes Malach HaMavet. He's the one that has the job of taking the soul out. But this very same Gemara, David HaMelech knew this. And he knew that in Gemara Brachot, we find out that Hashem created the Satan with a nature that's scared of Torah. Scared of Torah. So David HaMelech said, okay, so what am I going to do? Every Shabbat, as long as I'm studying Torah, he can't kill me. So David HaMelech would start studying on Friday night, and he wouldn't stop studying. He wouldn't stop learning Torah. When we're sleeping 5 minutes after we eat the Kiddush, or 2 minutes after we eat Chulent, David HaMelech was studying Torah because he knew that his life was depending on it. And he studied and studied and studied. And when Shabbat ended, he'd have, like Amos, the tzaddik said, he'd have a celebration, the fourth meal. What's the fourth meal? He didn't worry about resurrection of the dead. He didn't worry about the bone in the back of his neck. What did he worry about? Honoring Hashem for keeping me alive for another Shabbat. Hashem kept me alive because he fulfilled his promise. If I learn Torah, I put the yoke of Torah on myself, I don't have to worry about anything. Even my life. And he studied Torah, and one of his ways of celebrating it was having the fourth meal. So now, how did he die? In the Gemara Shabbat, page 30, it talks about how the Satan had his permission to take David HaMelech's life, but he saw that he's learning Torah. How could I kill him if he's learning Torah? I can't kill him. So what did he do? He made some noise outside of his window in a tree. David HaMelech got up off his chair to go see what it is. And for a moment he wasn't thinking about Torah because he slipped and fell. For that moment that he wasn't thinking about Torah, the Satan took his life. So now, the Chafetz Chaim asks a question. In the Gemara, Masechet Chagiga, page 13b, it says that someone that is in the middle of learning Torah and gets up to go do shtuyot, to go do nothing, to go check who's outside, to go watch the game, to go do something that's not Torah. They take hot coals that never get cool, which they call gechale ratamim, and they feed it to him as a punishment in Shemayim for taking time away from the Holy Torah and wasting it on something that's shtuyot, nonsense. So obviously David HaMelech knew this. So how could David HaMelech, who was Kodesh Kodeshim, get up from the middle of learning Torah to go check who's on a tree? Why, you didn't know this Gemara? No. Anybody? Amos, you may have an answer. Let us scream. What is his business? He's learning Torah. No, Michael? You had something.
Hey, I have a question. I mean, so is it more so the evil inclination prompts you to deviate from the path in which you're on, or it actually clearly manifests itself as a temptation out there? So which is the...
You're learning Torah?
I'm in Torah.
Someone is learning Torah, they hear a phone. They go pick up the phone. You have a problem. Learning Torah, they hear the game. They go get up and see who's winning.
But is it my desire to go look, or is
Irrelevant. You get up, you go check, you got a problem. You got a problem. Why? You just took Holy of Holies and treated it like it's worth less than the nonsense that's in this world.
I guess I'm asking, is it an inner discipline thing, or is it more...
Of course, you have to value Torah. Once you value Torah, you're not going to do it, but it takes time. Yeah, of course it takes discipline. Of course, it takes time to discipline yourself. Absolutely, but let's stay on the subject at hand. How could David HaMelech make such a simple error, as we see it right now, because we don't know the answer, and get up to go check who's outside on a tree?
He fell down the stairs.
Okay, he fell down the stairs. Why is he getting up, Bichlal? He's learning Torah. He knows that if he stops learning Torah for a moment, Satan can take his Malach HaMavet takes his life. So not only that he knows about this Gemara, that there's a punishment in heaven for taking Torah and mevatel ota and treating it like it's not worth much. It's not only that punishment. Let's say that's in the back of the mind. The actual front of the mind is thinking that the only reason I'm studying non-stop is because I know that if I stop, Malach HaMavet is showing up at my door. So how could David HaMelech make this decision? No?
No, it's just a question.
You guys are typical Jews. You answer a question with a question.
It might be kind of dumb, I don't know.
No, there's no dumb questions.
Anyway,
Oh.
David, he walked downstairs, we know that. I mean, what if he would have taken the rolls with him? I mean, go with him, went down there with him. I mean, this
Taking a Sefer Torah with him. Taking Sefer Torah with him is not learning.
He took his stuff. He thought
There is saying. We haven't found a source for it yet. There is a saying that if someone is carrying a holy book, it gives them protection. There's a saying. There's a known saying about it, but unfortunately we don't have a source in the Gemara about it. There's a joke. It's a story that was that's kind of funny. It's a real story, actually kind of funny. I heard from a friend. So there was one time a guy that was very, very arrogant, and he studied some Torah, but he considered himself much more than what he was. He considered himself a Talmid Chacham. He decided to write a book. Today, anybody with a beard can write a book. Sometimes without a beard, they can write a book too. So he wrote a book, and he thought that this book was like Holy of Holies. The real Talmidim Chachamim said this is you. They said what the poskim sometimes say, which is that by writing this book, you made a sin of bal tashchit. What's bal tashchit? You wasted something. You're not allowed to waste stuff. You can. If you have, let's say, for example, a lot of food, you don't eat all of it. You're not allowed to just throw out food. If it's still good, you have to use it. If you have certain things that can be used or gifted to somebody, you have to gift them. You can't just throw things. You can't be just treating things with disrespect. So he said by him writing this book, he made a sin of bal tashchit on the paper and the ink. Meaning he wasted his time by writing this book. So one day, he's at this house, and it's at night, and he says, is somebody gonna, maybe walk with me at night, because nobody was able to go with him. He goes, you know what? I'm gonna take a copy of my book. I'll take a copy of my book. So one of the wise guys over there said, take a book, it's a good idea. It's a good idea if you take your book. He goes, you know that saying also, that if you take a holy book, it protects you at night? He goes, no. I know that if you take your book, then the demons are going to come, they're going to see what's in the book, and they're going to know for sure you're not a Talmid Chacham, there's nothing to mess with you with. They're going to go somewhere else. So now back to our question.
And I think it's even worse because, as far as I know, David asked Hashem, at what time? And he didn't hit the time, only
Right.
the day.
Right, he gave him a day. So he knows this is the day. He knows this is the day. He takes a minute of Torah, Malach HaMavet is allowed to show up. How could David HaMelech do this?
Why is that really a question? The Gemara in Sotah says that if the person's protected even when he's not learning Torah from the Torah that he learned, as opposed to mitzvah, that he's not protected when he's not doing the mitzvah.
Because it also says that if you're in the middle of learning and you haven't finished your learning, if you haven't, he started and he stopped in the middle without stopping. He wasn't stopping learning. He was stopping to go check what's outside, what's making noise. It's the equivalent of, let's say, if at this point it's the equivalent, because we don't understand what actually happened, which I'll tell you in a minute, but it's the equivalent of, let's say, we're learning right now and the phone rings, we go pick it up. So what does the Chafetz Chaim say? Chafetz Chaim says an amazing chidush. Of course David HaMelech knew this. David HaMelech is Kodesh Kodashim. David HaMelech also knew much more than we could even imagine. He knew the day he's going to die. He knew that the minute he stops learning Torah on Shabbat, Malach HaMavet showing up. He knew that Malach HaMavet is scared of Torah. But he also knew the basics. The basics that we learned in last week's parasha of one of the 613 mitzvot of Ocheach Tochiach et Amitecha. You must rebuke your brother. He knew the basics. And Chafetz Chaim says, when he heard something on a tree, he's like, wait, it's Shabbat. You're not allowed to climb a tree on Shabbat. Let me go stop them. So they don't desecrate Hashem's name and be a mechalel Shabbat by climbing a tree on Shabbat. So he didn't stop learning, he went to fulfill a mitzvah. But the fact that the Satan had permission, he was able to remove the stair. And it made him slip, and it made him stop thinking momentarily of Torah, and that was the moment. Why? Because Hashem decreed it to be that moment. It wasn't because he got up, it wasn't because he made a sin. The limitation is in our understanding, not in David HaMelech, not in our Torah. There's a decree in Shamayim. But the point here is that we see how zealous David HaMelech was, how honest he was. Just hearing a possibility of somebody making a sin already made his heart break. How could somebody sin against my father? How could somebody go climb a tree on Shabbat, be a mechalel Shabbat? How could it be? Today, unfortunately, we have people driving on Shabbat, nobody says anything to them. No one says anything. No, I don't know him well enough. No, I know him, but I don't want to hurt him. No, I know him, but maybe he's going to stop on his own. Everybody has 500 excuses of why they're not going to tell anybody anything. David HaMelech didn't have any excuses. He heard something, got up. That's why he's David HaMelech. So, the reason why we have the fourth Seudah, Melave Malka, is because of David HaMelech. When he survived Shabbat, he'd celebrate the Shabbat that he survived. Why does he deserve to have a meal after him? Because look at how zealous he was. You be that zealous, they'll have a meal for you too.